Hello friends, and welcome to yet another session of NITCO Talks. We today have a fabulous panel and we look forward to a really engaging talk and discussion. The topic, as you all are aware, is the importance of context in architecture. Let me do the introduction. Badrinath Kaleru. Badri is an alumni of IIT Roorkee, founded Studio Ardet in 2010 with the belief that every problem has the capacity to inspire unique and creative solutions that motivate growth. His vision is to design spaces that would evolve into art, enriching the lives of people inhabiting them. His work has been published on various national and international platforms, besides being shortlisted and awarded at AR Design Awards, FOE 2017, NDTV Grohe Award, and many more. Welcome, Badri.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me here.
Arun Sharma. Arun is the principal architect of Atre & Associates, which is a leading architecture and interior design firm in Delhi with a wide range of commercial and residential projects to its credit. He got his architecture degree from College of Engineering and Technology, Akola, and is a member of the Council of Architecture in Delhi. Arun's commitment and meticulous approach towards design has fetched him many awards, with a recent one being the Estate Award for Design Excellence in Architecture and Interiors. Welcome, Arun.
Hi, thank you so much. Hello everybody. Hi.
Anand Sharma. For over 20 years, Anand has established an approach to the design of a built environment that is sustainable and socially inclusive. He believes that our cities must have a distinct character, and as an architect, he lays great emphasis on including contextuality in design responses. With his extensive expertise in architecture, engineering, and construction, Anand has been leading various large-scale commercial projects such as the famous Select City Walk in Delhi, and has casted the Guwahati City Centre, which is recognized as the largest retail mall in Guwahati city. His firm, Design Forum International, had won the top architectural firm Index Excellence Awards, IFJ, in September 2019. Welcome, Amar.
Thank you very much, Vivek. Thank you, everyone. Glad to be here. It's a pleasure and an honor both. Thank you very much.
Aman Agarwal. Aman is the founder and design principal at Charged Voids, a Chandigarh-based architecture and spatial design practice. He graduated from Chandigarh College of Architecture and trained under architect B.V. Doshi, after which he started his own practice in 2007. His work is grounded in the principles of conscious design, an approach that celebrates the transcendent and spiritual qualities of architecture. Over a slim span of time, he has won multiple awards and citations at national and international platforms, including the World Architecture Festival, ID Honors, Aces of Space, and many more. Welcome, Aman.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we will have presentations from everybody. We'll start with Badri. Badri, if you will share your screen, and then, as I was discussing a little earlier, during the course of the presentation, or maybe after the presentation, we will have an interactive discussion between the panel on the presentation.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
So we want to talk about the importance of context in architecture. So as architects, we would everybody would have their own perspectives, viewpoints about contextuality. We have great architects who questioned why contextuality, and we have like phenomenal architects who asked like contextuality should exist. So the point is like there are different aspects of contextuality. What I see that it is not just limited to the visual senses, or it is not limited to just the visual brief what is available, or the neighborhood visual brief. It could far fetch beyond it. Like for example, even Daniel Lipskind would say that his architecture would be contextual in a certain way, where many of the critics might not agree to it. So there is a perspective which talks about two extremes. One in like when we have a completely reactive nature, and probably it is like completely conducive in a sense, everything is aligned. So both the experience law, we don't want to end up in a city where every building speaks of itself. At the same time, we don't want to end up in a city where everything looks very similar and it looks as if it is not evolving. So somewhere these are the two extremes, and somewhere we land in between. So it's like, I'll just quickly flip to a couple of projects. So this is a project like in Chandigarh, it faces one of the predominant green belts. And the whole idea was the client actually brought up the piece of land wherein he could look at different kinds of green belts around it. And there are like fortunately 3-4 different parks around it. So the site was located in such a way that they don't have neighbors, they have privacy from neighbors. So they wanted it to behave in a certain way that it's an extrovert house, not a standard urban introvert house. So it opens more towards outside than it contains itself. And one of the interesting discussion was they wanted terrace, because the cityscape of Chandigarh has like, it's dominated by treetops, like thanks to the great architect who did it. So when it was dominated by treetops, he actually said that the best place to see the city should be from a certain height where we could get to see most of it and we could see the greenery and appreciate it. So at that particular level, if we could have a terrace, and if that is the main element of the house, and how everything could be spaced around it. So there is some problem. I think it's moving. So this is like the terrace house, which has views looking outside, and how it interacts, how the spatial program is done in such a way that it looks more towards outside. And because of subtropical climate, we have outdoor living rooms like the size of bedrooms on each floor, which doubles up as an entrance, and how the entrance enters from a natural courtyard and how it spaces out. So these are like how we could see that in most of the views, you could see how it looks towards outside. This is their existing trees in the backyard. This is their backyard with existing mature trees. So how it blends into it, and how it brings into the light and spaces, like even spaces, private spaces like closet areas also have like diffusion in it, and how they blend into each other is more like the kind of. So this was what, if we only talk about the contextuality, it was more about to make use of what is there in the neighborhood and try to draw inspiration and try to evolve around it. And there's another project where I talk about, normally we get briefs with different kinds of brief, and sometimes briefs need not be like more programmatic, they can even be emotional. So this was an emotional brief wherein it was more about a person who migrated from Chandigarh, and he shifted into a very remote village. He started a school 40 years ago, and 20 years, like he's the gentleman, and 20 years after it, like when he started the school, where it was a time where they want to expand into further neighborhood, where they had to bring in transport vehicles. So that is when his unfulfilled vision, like it was left unfulfilled, where he passed away, and his daughter took over the school. And they, based on his insurance money, where once he left the school, they bought their first bus. And it was, today they have a fleet of around 100 buses. They have something more than 4,000 students. But even the first bus, which was purchased way back here, and after they didn't want to get to it they didn't want to get the mandatory disposable of that bus, and they wanted to have a good afterlife or something they could do back to the school. And it all started with, because we've been doing quite a lot of projects, it was more of an emotional brief what they gave us, and we said, okay, let us do something which is more peaceful, and it could bring back what was the vision of it, and it will be part of your school which could look back to it. So the idea was to convert the bus into a pavilion and a museum gallery for the school, and how we could make them coexist so that we don't want to lose the originality of the bus, at the same time use it for a broader purpose. So when we were working on the concept, it was we tried to encase it in a certain way, but we just wanted to keep as the bus as the original. And also the idea was associated as a bus from childhood. It was always an emotion that standing on top of a bus would be for every child's dream. And it was in a lawn, in a very nice setup area where it was the neighborhood as lush green, like it was had fields and everything, but they could not access it visually because being even in that place because of the high boundary walls and security issues. So this nice lift of around 10-12 feet would give you that horizon, and it could give you a place where you could look beyond a standard perspective. So then the afterlife of it was supposed to create a small little open air theater with a deck on top and something inside, which could be used more like an information and an journey of the school that could be documented. So it needs to be an open air pavilion with a terrace and something that could have a knowledge center inside. So it was how could we expect, like from a small little bus, how could we expect so many things, and what could be the possibilities? So these are some before after images, wherein like the bus was a standard school bus. Now it has been transformed into a completely gallery where they have timelines, they have the vision of the school. And this was during the making, where we had to, the left was how it was being made, and after it was being completely painted in a neutral muted white color. And the interesting part of it is like the patterns it creates throughout the day, and it looks very different at different parts of the different times of the day, because it's the main element was the play of shadows, how they play into each other and how they get into it. So the overall phenomenon was more like it was more an open air pavilion where students would actually want to go up. They spend most of their evenings in a formal, informal way. At the same time, they also have a lot of formal things which are organized around it. And there's a view we were talking about where we could look through the horizon and something that could create, which is beyond the boundaries, and how they make use of it. So it is not about something to do with, many would not get related to it. It would say that, okay, it's a mere bus, but it was more about when we could understand the importance of it. That is when we thought if we could make something out of it. And it has been a phenomenal response to it. There have been so many people who've been visiting it, and quite frequently. And it's probably like now it's the cover page image of the school. And even in a small little environment, we still had those remnants of the bus driver's seat and the area next to it preserved in a certain way. People still could relate it to what it was before. I think it is more about, like, I would conclude my presentation. It is more about what we talk about contextuality. The only perspective here is like there could be different dimensionality in perspective regarding to contextuality, and not just limited to the visual domain alone.
Love the presentation. Madhvi, so lucky to be living in a city like Chandigarh, where you have the trees and you can step out on terraces and enjoy the trees.
I love
the
what
bus.
you did. Yeah, with the bus, it was really super cool. I've never
Thank
seen
you.
something like that before.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Use of bus can be like this. We never thought of something like this can be created by the bus. It's really wonderful, Badri.
Thank you, Arunji.
Badri, I think we have a question for you before we start Arun's presentation. Sorry.
No, now we can start.
Okay, fine. So we'll ask the questions at the end then.
Yeah.
So I'm just presenting two of my projects. My screen is visible, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you are visible.
Yes. Okay. So this is one of the residential project in Delhi, like densely populated area in Pitampura. So this is on the busy road, and this we did like the shades and that come out because of the context of the surroundings. So how I did this, I just explain you here. And the climate of Delhi, it touches the extremes. In summers, it goes up to 44 degree and near about 44, 45, and it drops down in winters till 5 degree, 4 degree. So it's extreme conditions over here. And mm, like this is the road, the busy road, and this is the site I was talking about. And the like residential property on the both the sides. And across the road there is a lush green park, and diagonally opposite there is a commercial building. So the client and we didn't want to have this view of this commercial building from inside of the inside areas. So what we did is like we created a thin partition wall here in the balcony, and we tried to block the view of the commercial area so that we can have the view only of the green area from inside. So what we did in the starting, we took the block it like this, and after joining these 3 points, and eventually come up with a curvilinear shape. So and we arrived on eventually come up with this shape, and it came out like this. So this is because of the requirement, and it came out beautifully. And this is the second slide. You can see that the shapes how it came out. From the inside also you can see the green area only, and not the commercial building across the road. So this is the formal sitting area, and from this area also you can see just the green part. And from inside of the bedrooms also you can have beautiful view across the building. And in the center, like we derived that the curve shape, what we derived for the front elevation, we took it all over in the house. Like this curvilinear shape, we took it all around, on the wall, and the same wall. So we extended the design in the formal sitting area, central atrium, bedroom, all over, the simple shape. So this creates a very good harmony and creates a connect between the inside and outside. So this is the entrance of that Devan building. The name of the building is Devam, and this is extended like suspended staircase. So in this we created directly entry, because left hand side stilt is mandatory in Delhi. So the left hand side is for the car park and all, and we gave the direct access to the upper ground floor from the stilt, from this staircase. So this is the plan in which you can see like how we block the view of the from this side. And the first floor also we block this view. And here on the ground floor there is a master bedroom at the rear side, and in the front there is a formal sitting area. In between there is a family lounge, a TV lounge, and water body is there in the center. And we took a huge log at the part of the water body. So that also looks beautiful. I will show the pictures later. This is the first floor and second floor. In the second floor, we have created very beautiful courtyard on second floor, because the bedroom, which are the rear side of the plot, cannot have the view of the green area. And these, my clients are in Delhi, you hardly get the views from every part, because it is all side by side plotted area of the residential colony. So you get only the view from the areas in the front. So what we created is a courtyard here, and from the advantage what we got from this is like you can have the view from this bedroom of this courtyard. And also this courtyard serves two purposes. One, to have the view under this bedroom, and also it serves because the cool air comes from this ground floor, upper ground floor area, and it goes up and exits through this courtyard. So it serves two purposes, and thus creating a cool climate inside comparatively. And you can see this curve shape we played with this all over, which you took from the elevation block. So these are the few pictures of like the inside of the house, in which you can see that green courtyard what I was talking about, and whole area is flooded with natural light. There is no need of putting on any artificial source of light anywhere in the house. So we have ample of natural light all over this house, although it is the property in between the two residential plots. So still we have ample of natural light from, from the skylights. So this is the view we get from the front bedroom. This is the view of the courtyard, what we get from the front bedroom. So, and this is the courtyard view. And from the rear side, like this is the view from the rear side bedroom. So which is at the back of the plot where the service lane is at the back side, but still we can have the very good view of this courtyard. So you don't feel like as if you're on the second floor and your room is at the back side without any view of the green area. So it entirely changes the scene of this bedroom. And this is the bedroom in the front. So in the front bedroom also you can have that view of this central courtyard. So for this bedroom advantage that you can have the green area outside and also in the inside of the house. So this is again another view of this building. And at the top floor we have the entertainment area from where we can again get the view of the extension of the courtyard. This is the terrace. So this is all about this residential building which we did in Delhi. And secondly, I want to share again. I will share one more project. One more project in the Delhi Haryana border. I'm just opening that project. Just a minute. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yeah.
So this is what we did in the outskirts of Delhi. That's it, Kundli. So there's a lawn here, and the client gave this corner to create some sitting area, which is in the mid of like green area. So this corner they gave us, and they want to have the full green, view of the entire landscape area. So. And this is the direction is north, and at the back it's the south. So we got this corner. So what we did is like there's a corner space for lounge and there's a green space. So to have the maximum green area, first in the corner, first we did the diagonal thing, and then after joining these two parts, so we thought this shape will have the maximum surface area of the exterior. So we did it like this, and finally we arrived on this shape. And this is the layout plan. So this is the sitting area, and this is all glass in this shape and landscape around. So this is glass having two sitting areas having maximum exposure for that the green spaces. So we tilted it like this because this is the south direction to have to cut the heat of the south direction, and we have this glass and in the north direction. So that to maximum have the gray, more green view from this side. So this is the front elevation. Finally, this has been achieved. So because of the site conditions and because of the requirements, we did this shape, and it comes out very well. Thank you so much. That's all.
Amazing presentation. I love the way that you can bring in a courtyard right in the middle of the house, and
yes.
It sounds like a fulcrum for everybody, focal point for everybody to get natural light and greenery from it.
Yes. That was the main thought behind that. So that the areas which are at the back of the plot, they should also enjoy the greenery, and that never obsolete. This greenery and natural things never get obsolete, and always give a feel of freshness.
Yeah, because homes are touching each other on two sides, and at the back, I think there's small lane. I think it's a service lane.
Yes.
So
Yes, obviously. Yeah.
so there's no view at all. So
Yes.
you have to create the view within the house itself, and that's an amazing way of being able to do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
This is what, a 400 square yard, 40 by 90 if I remember.
Yes, it's 400 square yards. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like 400. It feels so much bigger. I think that's the miracle part of this design. It looks so much bigger, especially the atrium and the area around. Amazing. I think the amount of space you've been able to create is fabulous.
Thank you so much. This is in the Pithampura, on the main road, busy road.
Yeah.
And because of the so much of light there, what we took from the light atrium, so that also plays very important role to that to look that area bigger because of light and color selection and many other things.
Where is the second? The location of the second presentation?
Yeah, the second one is in Kundli, at the Delhi Haryana border. There is a Kundli industrial area. Kundli industrial area. There is a area for farmhouses and all. So that is the green area belongs to one of my clients. So they they wanted to have some sitting area in in the corner. So having the maximum exposure of the greenery and the landscape around. So we created like that, sir.
So it's only a sitting area, and they have a house, or this is just like an office that has a sitting area?
There is the farmhouse also, just next to the landscape. And another at the other corner, there is an old house of theirs. So, but there was no big glasses, and they couldn't enjoy the landscape what they developed there. So they wanted to have some sitting area inside the landscape area. So that's why we created this.
So now they'll have to redo the house.
Yes. Yes, I'm also waiting for that. They will definitely going to approach me for that as well. Thank you, sir.
Otherwise, I'm sure they must be sitting in the sitting area all day, and the house is lying there.
I was lying there because there is old house and they're not having big windows and all, and it was not planned in such a way. So because they bought this land later on, in which they developed this greenery. So that's why they developed that.
I personally really like the indoor space while you still have all the greenery. Amazing lounge, really cool.
Thank you, Anika. Thank you so much.
Your lounge looks like an Apple store, Arunji.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
So probably when Apple has to make a store somewhere, sometime in Delhi, I think they will be approaching you to do it.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. So in context to the requirement of the client and in context to the surroundings, and we did this architecture.
Okay, we'll go with Anand now. Anand can share his screen.
Thank you. Visible?
Yes.
So, talking of context, I think it's not so much just the context as to how we connect with the context. So I wanted to speak very, very briefly about how we approach our projects. And there are two very diverse examples that I'm going to be presenting today. And I'll not take much of your time. So how context essentially enables us to connect our projects with what there is. And sometimes how context is to be interpreted will also vary from one project to the other. I'm Anand Sharma. Design Forum International is how we practice. So the first project, which is absolutely dyed in the wool definition of context, so to speak, is this the Delhi High Court that we finished about 2.5 years ago. And it is right there in Lutyens, Delhi. And if you were to see the picture on the left, the existing High Court is on the left, the one closer to you, and the new High Court building that we have made, the one immediately after that. And in the distance, you can see the dome. So not many more contextual surroundings in Delhi than this. So we chose to go with context. And Delhi is very, very rich on material. I'm sure you all are aware of that. You're all North Indians, one way or the other. There is sandstone, there is brick, there is kota, and there is quartzite. All of these are very, very germane and very, very local to Delhi. So we chose to go with the materials which represent and which speak the Delhi language, as well as try and give our silent tribute to the heritage of the buildings which are all around us, masters all around us. So we have eventually ended up creating a building in which, in our own humble way, is parallel to the old High Court building. It's slightly larger, but it has the same form, it has the same ethos, and it has the same appeal. We like to think at least that way. So they are parallel in everything. We have tried to stay true to the vocabulary of the materials that were there originally, as well as in all buildings around it. The sea hexagon of India Gate. So we've tried to stay true to vocabulary, and we've tried to stay true to the materials which are so relevant to that area. So this is exercise one that I wanted to talk about. The other exercise is a project which is still to come into public domain yet. The design is complete, but final investment board approvals are coming through. So it's not public yet. This is the civil airport terminal that we're doing, which is going to be the second airport of Patna, Patliputra. Some of you who are more familiar with that name. And here we chose consciously to make a very, very clean departure from tradition in the form of the building, where the context came from the epitome of flying, the new poster boy of flying, the drone. So the form is modeled after a drone, but the foreground is modeled after Ghats of Ganges, and with the river of time flowing through it, and we've chosen to dot the entire foreground landscape with sculptures belonging to different eras of Magad, Patliputra. So we have tried to fuse two things. But the reason we chose to make a clean break was context also varies from who's looking at the context. And therefore, we asked ourselves the question, what is an airport for a resident? Somebody who belongs to Patna, what would he like to see in an airport? The airport has to be connected. It has to speak the language of that area for at least to some part of it, to some extent of it. And Patna and Bihar, erstwhile Magad, is so rich in heritage, so rich in art. So there is Madhubani. Nalanda is 80 kilometers away. The stupas are right there. But all that is fine. But in an airport, they want to see what is there beyond the airport, right? An airport is a gateway to the future. It's what we like to call the harbinger of change to a better life and to a better future. So this is what an airport is to a resident, but it is a completely different thing for a visitor. So what does an airport mean for a visitor? Somebody who's coming in to visit Patna, for instance. So it is supposed to be a host imbued with local heritage, much too familiar pick for the Mumbaikars, I'm sure. Beautiful, amazingly done. And it is also an ambassador of the region. So anybody who is coming to T3 IGI has seen and appreciated this Mudra sculpture on the wall. And this is what a visitor is looking to see. So the point that we chose to pick and chose to dwell upon in entire design vocabulary that we are putting into this project is that an airport is different things to a resident and to a visitor, and therefore their contexts are different. Right? And we have to respect as designers the difference in the contexts of both the user groups, not just the resident, not just the visitor, both. So we've chosen to take some of this and some of that. For a resident, it is an edifice of modernity, but built on its classical and heritage roots. So the columns that we're doing in the departure hall have a traditional base, quite like the Nalanda form. But towering above is a large steel pillar going and supporting the roof on top. But for a visitor, it is a gateway to the region. So we've made the gateways to the terminal building in the same form, same language, same vocabulary. So the culture, the local flavor of the place is juxtaposed with the modernity of the airport building that we're doing. And therefore, therein lies the balance between context and connect, what it means for a person who's a resident and what it means for a person who's a visitor. Thank you very much.
Have they been able to get the land? Because there's the only city of the country that doesn't have a new airport. When I land in Patna, I've been there by chance. I've been there a couple of times last few years.
Right.
You're amazed that 2 or 3 civil aviation ministers came from Bihar, and they don't have an airport.
So the current airport that they have is so constrained with land that they can't expand it further. And though they are making a terminal at the same location again, but still the amount of traffic that Patna is taking, they couldn't do it any bigger. So we are creating this airport about 24 kilometers away. The area is called Beta. There is an existing Air Force base there. So the runway exists, the control towers exist. And this is the zone where most of the new development is coming up for Patna. The IIT Patna is being built there. It is and they're doing an 8-lane road. So the state government of Bihar has given free of cost 108 acres to Airport Authority. So the runway is ready. We are just doing the terminal and the city side. Yeah.
So it's already a defense airport.
Yes, it's an existing defense airport, not very, very frequently used, but operational. Yes.
But defense airports have so many restrictions that you can't fly at this time, you can't fly at that time. Like Goa Airport has been, or there are other airports that have been defense airports. There are lots of issues at defense airports. I mean, they're making a new airport. I felt they should make it in a place where they are independent of anybody like the defense, because they will have their own issues.
Yes, that is true. But infrastructure investment wise, Vivek, if you see, it costs far more to develop an airfield than to develop a terminal. So the costs play a big part. They've been trying to bring in a second airport to Patna for almost 18 years now. And they eventually found this location to be suitable. Partially because it is close to Patna and partially because part of the infrastructure is already in place.
Right. So it's been decided, or they are still like go, no go?
No, so it's decided. It is currently under what they call a PIB, Project Investment Board. That is where it is being considered right now. The designs are done. The tenders are ready. The moment we get a go ahead, we will float the construction.
So they're not going to do it like a private airport. They can all airports are being privatized.
No, not this one. This one is not proposed to be built in PPP. It is proposed to be built with public money, with Government of India money, and operated by Airport Authority. At least that's the plan right now.
Right. No, but you're right that Mumbai airport is amazing, and Delhi airport, the pictures you showed were also fantastic.
Thank you.
But all airports are being taken over by Adanis.
No comments.
Mumbai airport already gone to Adanis.
I know. The other airport that we are building, Guwahati, is one of the 6 airports that have already been privatized. Adani again.
Well, Guwahati has already been taken. There's a new airport coming up at Guwahati?
Yeah, there's a new airport coming up at Guwahati. It's a huge, humongous, almost 40% the size of the current T3 at Delhi. 102,000 square meters, more than 1 million square feet. Very, very large terminal coming up. It's already under construction.
In fact, I do go to Guwahati a few times, and I'm amazed at the connectivity that Guwahati has with the rest of the country.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. It's flying to every city.
Before the lockdown, there were approximately 12 to 14 flights a day from Delhi.
Imagine.
Imagine. Yeah. It's the 12th busiest airport in the country.
Before going to Guwahati, I would not have imagined that. After I went there, I realized that it's very happening there.
Yeah. It's a huge metropolitan aspiring city, and lots of stuff happening there. Northeast is the cynosure of everybody's focus right now.
So, well, I will take an example of Chandigarh as the context because that's where the practice is based. And I'll just talk about context in a way, how Chandigarh was conceived. So this is what the vision of the then Prime Minister was when, Chandigarh was conceived. It hits you on your head. It's a symbol of modernism in the country. These are some of the images of the buildings in Chandigarh. This is how Chandigarh is. A green city which is just walkable throughout the city. But our aspirations, this is what our aspirations have converted the city into now. I really don't have any comments on it, but I would just say that this is a result of aspiration rather than anything else. So, I'd share a couple of projects and I'll just talk about how architecture doesn't necessarily need to be a reflection of the time that we are in, but sometimes it becomes the criticism of the time that we are in. How architecture, like being a prime mover, it can completely reject the past, but it can also sort of reinterpret the past. I'll share 2 projects to sort of talk about what I'm saying. This is one of the residences that we had finished recently. This residence, if you look at it, the vocabulary itself is almost, it's very Corbusian in nature. The idea behind the vocabulary was that there's so much stuff that's happening in Chandigarh, which I just find completely out of the place, that we decided to do something which was sort of saying that, yes, you can state aspirations by doing still a project that's contextual. This is the side of the project. I won't get into the detail of the project, but just broadly speaking, the architecture vocabulary is all Corbusian because of the context. It has the press club and all these old buildings all around the site. These are some of the sketches. But it's not just contextual because just of the vocabulary, it's also because of the elements that Corbusier used, the sunbreakers, the skylights, the green terraces and the overall open plan of the project. So it's not just the project in how it looks, but it also is how the project works. It's an open plan project. These are some of the other images of the project. It's an open plan project. If you look at the plan, it's a completely open plan, but it has 2 courtyards and also terrace gardens. So it's like it's a reinterpretation of Western aesthetics, but Eastern spatial planning, where you have these courtyards inside, and yet it's a completely free plan. These are the courtyards, the greenery. And also how the public spaces and the private spaces, they vary. This is the upper floor plan. I won't get into the detail of everything, but just broadly speaking, it's more or less the idea of these transcendent spaces, this reinterpretation of these terraces, verandas, balconies, terrace gardens is what is the focus of this project. The other elements of the sun shaders that Corbusier used. So the idea behind this project is it's not just contextual in how it looks, the architecture vocabulary, but also how it works. And more than that, how it is an interpretation of what probably somebody like Corbusier would have thought of doing in the city now after 60 years or 70 years. Some of the other images of the project, how it connects with the nature. This is how the public space of the project is. This is the temple, how the light falls in. This is how the entrance space is. Obviously, the trees have grown now. It's become completely green, the project inside. Some of the other shots of the project. Some other shots. So it's basically all, it has a very clear cross axis. It's all very well ventilated. It's a very simple plan, very open, free plan, free facade. It has all the points that Corbusier used to always profess about, his 5 elements of architecture or 5 points of architecture. And we sort of also reinterpreted it. You used to always use the sunbreakers very close to the glass facades of the actual facades. We sort of created these verandas so that it allows that Indianness. Some of the other images. So this is the second project that I'll talk about. This is a student hostel for the Chandigarh group of colleges. The brief of this project was, we wanted to design a hostel for 12,000, for about 600 students. The campus had about 12,000 students. They had an existing hostel facility of about 4,000 students. But the actual brief was the budget, 1,500 rupees a square feet. That's the actual brief when you sort of meet a client and understand what he wants. So the location of this project, again, this project is located, like Chandigarh is no more 50 square kilometers. It's become like this huge urban development where you have a peri-urban area, you have a suburban and a peri-urban area. So this is in the peri-urban area of Chandigarh, which is Landra, but the institute is also called the Chandigarh Group of Colleges. So that's the site. It's located on one of the main arterial highways that connects or surrounds Chandigarh. And if you're coming from Delhi to Punjab, so this is the highway that you take if you don't want to get into Chandigarh. So it's right on the highway. And the campus is about 25 acres. But the problem with the campus is it's all gated compounds. They've created small gated compounds, staff quarters different, hostels different, for security reasons and other reasons. And so this is the client. If you look at the site, this is the site the client had selected, and we decided to change the site. So this is the first move that we made. And the reason was because, the client proposed a site which was actually like on the side of a green area, and we wanted to save this green area. And so there was this complete piece of land which was, according to the client, completely waste because of its odd shape, and it was an existing bus yard and transport yard. So we decided to build the hostel there instead of the actual site proposed by the client. So this is the design proposal. It's a simple triangular plan on an odd-shaped site. We just stuck out an atrium out of it, pushed the lower floors back because that was the principal idea. I wanted to create a public space. This campus had absolutely no covered public spaces. So the lower floors become the public space and the upper floor become the living spaces, because that's what the focus of the hostel always should be. But what we also did was we created more public space, and we sunk the front area into the basement. And we shifted the main entrance of the hostel to the side instead of the front. So some of the other details, how the public space functions. But the real idea behind this project was, again, it's a simple geometrical form, public space, private space at the back. And it just shifts the entire focus of how a hostel can be designed. A hostel is always thought of as a place which is locked at 9 o'clock at night and, things like that. but it completely opens and gives a large public space to the campus. There's the main entrance from the side ramp, and just the floor plan. So the ground floor is all the public space with the mayor seating areas, everything. The first floor is the staff areas and other space. This is how the hostel actually functions. So, it's a simple triangular plan, rooms all around. You have the toilet boards at the end, the balconies. Each room has a balcony. But the real idea behind this public space was hostels, hospitals. We're so used to looking at these buildings as buildings guided by corridors. I wanted to create a space which almost feels like, a space where one can saunter around. That freedom of movement that one can get inside a hostel is something that's completely, I think, missing in buildings. The essence is completely missing. And so we have these connecting bridges in the central atrium. It's a very simple geometrical form. These bridges just, they keep on moving. But what it allows me to do is it allows me to create a great interaction in the section. Typical room, 3-story. This is how the building looks. It's a typical brutalist form. I mean, if you look at around, if you look back here, so they have these typical Chandigarh balconies and everything. So I wanted to do something which is very simple, brutalist, but very Corbusian in nature. And the result is right here. I mean, if you look at the building or the space inside, it's completely enigmatic. It really moves you the way, the light comes inside. This is the public space, the staircase that goes to the lower floor. This is the sunken court on the outside. This overlooks a beautiful gym. So this is the gym on the basement, which is actually for the entire campus. This is not just for the hostel. Yeah, so the gym looking outside. And so all these public spaces are for the entire campus. It's not just for the boys' hostel. And this is the actual entrance from where you enter. This is the central atrium on the lower floor. This is the basement actually. So, how the direct sunlight just gets into the basement, the mess. And this is the actual atrium. This is how the hostel feels. It doesn't look like a hostel from the inside. It has natural light all the time. It works really, really well climatologically. It's just that the sheer quality of that light that falls inside, and how you connect through different spaces, and how these bridges are actually congregation spaces for students to hang around. And I've seen students playing cricket, doing all that stuff. And it's a really interesting public space. It's about creating a public space in the living space of student hostels. And the best part about the space is it has so much variety. Every time you move inside a space and you get lost because you see something completely different, and with time everything changes. How light moves in, everything changes, and your angles of vision keep on changing. And you can walk down to the same place in probably 6 different ways. So it is this essence that Corbusier had, this essence of architecture where he could understand light, and he could understand space, and he could understand how, and this is how a typical room is, and this is how the balconies function, and the other shots of the atrium. I won't get into the details of the efficiency, but yeah, this project is really, really climatically responsive. Materials very, very simple, and the primary colors always Corbusian in nature. This is what Corbusier used to bring, his idea. So this is what I would like to say in the end. The city of Chandigarh is planned to a human scale. It puts us in touch with the infinite cosmos and nature, provides us with places and buildings for all human activities by which all citizens can live a full and harmonious life. Here, the radiance of nature and heart are within our reach. This is the essence of Corbusier, this that we are chasing in 2 of our projects. And I was trying to sort of portray. Thank you.
Amazing. True tribute, I would say. Great.
Thanks.
Excellent.
We'll be able to see each other. That was amazing, Aman. It was such a high-end upscale hostel. It didn't even look like a hostel. Like it looked like a
No,
fancy.
it's a 1,500 square feet building, you must not forget.
It was amazing, really. I mean, I love the play of color and the way you've done everything. It doesn't look like any regular Indian hostel for sure. It's something completely different.
Thank you so
But
much.
it needed to be on 25 acres. It's on 25 acres.
No, the campus is 25 acres. And the hostel is just, it's because it's an odd shaped site, we just picked up, it's about 1 acre, a little less, little more than 1 acre.
Oh, the campus of the college is 25 acres.
Yeah. The whole campus is 25 acres.
Okay.
Some courage, no? You having client shift the site of the hostel from one place to the other.
That's how, your young practices, that's how you get your projects. Either you do something radical or you don't do it.
Right. Wow. I'm glad you chose to go that way.
Yeah, because otherwise, because it's always like you're fighting against established practices, it becomes difficult. There is.
But could you finish in 1500?
Yeah, we did actually. It's and also, if you realize, if you saw the images, we finished in actually less than 1500, and it's an air-cooled hostel. The entire building is air-cooled, by the way.
Draft from top, is it?
Yeah. Everything. It's all air-cooled, and no, the rooms are air-cooled. The central atrium is obviously not air-cooled. The rooms the private spaces are air-cooled. But the idea was, if you see, I did not get into the details of the efficiency of how I achieved the structure and the other things. But it's all simple Kota flooring and simple grid finish and nothing. There is absolutely nothing fancy in the hostel. It's just the design of the geometry. And the geometry itself becomes so stable, it becomes structurally very, very efficient. Because if you do a triangle and then you start cutting it, it just starts becoming really efficient. If you see the old temples, how they used to do the shikha, it used to be always like the octagon and the square and the octagon. And so if it's always that division that allows you to get it more efficient, right?
Right.
So it had common toilets.
Yeah, it had common toilets in the ends. And if you see the triangular plan, so the three flanks of the triangle were actually the toilets.
There was a question, Anika, if you could ask, I think there was a question for Badri earlier by somebody.
Yeah, so they've asked what were the materials that you've used in the pavilion?
The project is very simple. Basically, on the outside, it was more about metal tubes and we just painted them. On the inside, it is more about simple ply surfaces which are painted again. So it has a very minimal materiality.
So Aman, what does one do when everybody is changing the architecture of Chandigarh?
Sir, I think, the idea with doing one of that houses that I did was sort of, I think it's always related to the aspirations of the client more than anything else. The architects just follow suit. The architects are like more or less becoming service providers rather than visionaries. So that's a separate part of it. So I think if you can sort of create things which are aspirational to clients also, and you can sort of show them that, okay, you can do some outstanding stuff which is contextual, I think it will start catching up and we will get into the right direction of things. It's about putting architecture in that pedestal. If you can do that, then things will follow.
If I may add a point of view here, so the architects are like oarsmen in a boat which is flowing so fast. The river is flowing and there is nothing that can stop or hinder the flow of the river, right? But so there is not much. If you want to do a Joffrey Baba kind of an architecture, you would do a Joffrey Baba kind of architecture. If you wanted to do the Roman Parthenon, the lookalikes, you would do it. There is nothing that I as an architect can do. But what I can do is steer the boat a little bit using my two oars as architect. Try and position it into a place where it starts making sense. We can't be too choosy in what we do, but I think some direction setting is both a responsibility and a possibility for us.
I think, sir, as Anandji rightly said, it has also supporting what Aman is saying. It is more about to do that. It's also about like practices which have been established, and also like the scale of projects. So when we have a smaller set of projects and we try to be more radical, so we try to build a new kind of stuff in
No,
those
no,
kind
no,
of.
no. That's not what I was saying. It's a completely different approach. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but you're misinterpreting me. When I said radical, radical does not mean aspirational by any chance. Not creating iconic.
I was not talking about radical in an iconic way. I mean, like, see, it is not about, when I say radical, it is not iconic. It is actually something that you're trying to fight what is happening predominantly around, and you're trying to take it to a new direction, if I put it a right way. So if you're like that is, so the idea is like, and what Anandji was talking about is about, like, we cannot, like, end of the day, the kind of things like what client have to say and what the projects has to demand, it is not much that we can do about it. That's what his point. So here it is also about the scale of the project, the kind of project what Anandji is doing. There are so many stakeholders wherein, like, architect is also one of them. And when we talk about projects, when we build for private clients, individual clients, where the kind of stakeholdership what the architecture holds, there's a difference in it. So some things could be possible because we do some sort of different kinds of projects. In some kind of projects where the kind of the stakeholdership to steer it in a different way is pretty heavy, and some kind of projects, because of the amount of consultants and the kind of stakeholders and the amount of costs which are at stake, it also has to fall into a broader scheme of things.
You can always talk about, the limitations. It's like architecture is always like riding a tiger. But at the end of the day, what about the art in architecture? Even if you're doing larger scale projects, and by God's grace, we are doing some, and I've come to realize that I think if you have a preliminary vision, the limitations will always be there. I mean, they will never go away. It's a part of who we are and what we do as a profession. But I think it's a responsibility of architects to be, sort of thinking in the direction of visionaries and not just being limited by what holds around us. And also, I think costs, uh, if you do something sensible, costs obviously become much, in my experience, whatever little experience that I have, I've come to understand that if you do something sensible, it would cost less.
In fact, you would not believe the amount of latitude that public projects give to an architect. Almost, if you have a vision and if you have the conviction to, back up your vision, we have had far, far, far more freedom dealing with the government in being able to do what we set out to do than with a person who's doing a house, right? There, and it's figure, right? Somebody who's making his house wants his personality reflected in what he's building, right? But, so there is good freedom, and I think that's why it's great to be working on publicly funded projects. Yeah.
This morning I was talking to Noza Wadia, he's an architect in Mumbai, and then I was just able to see his DP. I'll show you his DP. I read it out. I don't know why people hire architects and then tell them what to do. And this is a quote by Frank Gehry. But as Anand was saying, that a home, you want your own personality, you want your own, you want to express yourself by way of your own space. Something you enjoy. So that was extremely engaging. We loved all the presentations, fantastic presentations. I wish we lived in that side of the world where we could have nice homes. We have to go off for a weekend to come to a home, a house with, with some garden around. Even pets, it's so difficult even to keep pets in a house because it's almost, they get very restricted spaces. at least in these homes, you can have nice pets who can roam around the garden and things.
Thank you very much.
Okay, then thank you so much. We all enjoyed it. I'm sure the audience that was there would enjoy it. And we have thousands of people who log on to YouTube later to see the webinars, and they enjoy it. And we get a lot of feedback on the webinars that we do. And it's amazing that we get to see and we're able to connect fantastic architects and designers. Thank you all so much for having come on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Taking your
much.
valuable time.
Thank you very much for this platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.